Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online character request build. With me, Sherman. That's right guys, today I bring you guys a special character request build. Now this is a very unique one, but we'll get to that in a minute. But first, disclaimer, this is a role-playing, casual play build. It is not meant for meta play. Now, to get into the story of this character, I have to go back to a long time ago in a pen and paper game far away. The story of this character comes from my brother's own personal D&D character back when we were kids. It was the first original character he had that he fell in love with, and this is what drove him to play Dungeons and Dragons and be very imaginative with his stuff. And his character's name was called Jameer Blackthorn, and he was a cleric of the Rose, or in this case, he was a ranger cleric. And I was trying to think of the best way to put it together so this way I could present it to him as not a birthday gift or anything like that, but to present to him and say, this is what you can play, man. You can play your character. And I just wanted it to be something special for him, but I wanted to share it with you guys too, because I know that if I make something, I want it to be something everyone can use. So the idea of the Cleric of the Rose is it's more of a ranger cleric or a cleric ranger type character. They don't really worship any deity necessarily. They're more of a cleric of the spirit nature. And if you guys don't know what a cleric's just a battle priest. It's kind of like a battle mage, but the opposite. Instead of being a battle damage dealer, it's more like a battle healer. They're made to stand on the front lines of combat next to even the tank and help support and protect their allies through spells and different things like that. Just like, kind of like a paladin, but not as aggressive, if you will. They're not tanks, they're support characters, technically. But they're support healers is what it is. They're more off healers in trials, and in dungeons they can be healers, in overland they can be healers, in other places, and they can also play pretty powerful damage dealer. So let's go ahead and take a look at what the Cleric of the Rose is. So going in, you guys can see here, it is called the Cleric of the Rose. It is a Breton Warden. Now, the reason I chose a Breton Warden is in D&D is my brother played a half-elf. And if you guys didn't know this, Bretons are technically descendants of humans and elves. They're half-elves. In the lore of this game, Bretons were technically half-elves to begin with. They were originally descendants of an elven human colonization, basically, and boom, the Bretons were born. And that's why they are so inclined with magic, is that purpose. Now, to make the character feel and look like my brothers, I gave him the more pointed ears. I made him look like a half-elf type character, because that's what he played. And then the reason I chose Warden was he was a ranger and a cleric, so he was a mix of both divine and basically wilderness protector. So I wanted to kind of give that same emphasis here. Now if you look, we do have 64 points into stamina. This allows us to build our stamina pool up much higher than our magicka pool. We still have access to our magicka pool because it's very high, so we can still use magicka almost like a magicka based player, just not to that effect. So our magicka is primarily used for healing. Our stamina is primarily used for damage and other things. You guys will see in a second. So with the Breton, I went with 64 points in the stamina to make them work this way. If you're going to play this character as a tank, which they can play, you can take the 64 points out of stamina, put enough into health to give you 30k, and then put the rest back into stamina, because this is flat. This is your base magicka with this character. So you're going to want to have at least 24, almost 25k stamina with as close to 30k health as possible. You'll probably have to use the Lord Mundustone to get there. Alright, moving on now to playing this character as a true healer. If you want to play this character as a true healer, you take everything out of health and stamina and put it all into magicka. This way you can focus into the high magicka pool, and you can heal really good with this. You can still pull off playing a good healer with this thing, even with the 24k. As you can see, max magic is coming in at 24k, 21,855 max health, 28,318 max stamina. We do have a 1221 mag recovery with a 397 health recovery, and our stamina recovery is coming at 611. Don't stress the recovery rates, because your primary role is to be support. You primarily heal in your group and use buffs and debuffs, stuff like that. Now, moving on. Spell damage is coming in at 1509 with a 28% spell critical. Weapon damage is 1719 with a 37% weapon critical. And then we have a 23,655 spell resist with a 21,153 physical resist. I think I did something wrong here. Let me go ahead and check in the CP. Yeah, I did. We'll fix this real quick. Because we're a Breton, we don't need anything in there, really. We can put it all into here. This should actually balance out our stats better. Oh, there you go. We actually have more there. We'll go ahead. Let me fix this. Sorry, guys. It is a bad habit of mine to do this. So, to try and get everything... I like having really, really, really well-rounded characters. Alright, that's better. So now we have 22, 21, almost 22k physical resist, 22 spell resist. We do use the Thief Mundus Stone, but this isn't to boost our damage. This is to boost our critical rating with healing and support capabilities. And we use Tri-Stat Food because we do play with magicka and stamina. This is a hybrid-based character, primarily, so we want to be able to take advantage of the two pools. Now, moving on to the gear sets that we run with this. Now, because we are a battle priest, we stand on the front lines, like I said. So, when we play this character as a tank, you're going to want to use tripods. If you're playing this character primarily as a healer or support, you're going to want to use spell power pots. Now, if you want to play this character as it originally is designed to be played, you're going to use the stamina power pots. The reason why is because you already get mag recovery through magicka recovery itself, and through the fact that you primarily are going to use tripods when you're playing normally. Now, when you use these while you're playing in a dungeon or a trial or something, because you want to get the maximum potential out of your character with not just weapon damage, but also spell damage as well. So, and you want your weapon crit, because you're a battle priest. The whole idea about your character is to stand on the front lines and to help protect and aid your allies with heals and support and damage. Alright, now, food. Tri-Stat Food is going to be the best option for this. You can use other sources of food like Dubious Camel and Throne, Witch Mother's Potent Brew, Artan Takeaway Broth, and the Clockwork Citrus Fillet. You can use those if you want. They can get expensive. This is why I stick to just using Tri-Stat on a lot of these builds, is it's easy to get. Now, to go over these sets, starting with the monster set, we are using Troll Kings. Now, this one adds 4% to your healing done, and then when you heal an ally, or heal yourself or an ally, sorry, if they are still below 50% health, their health recovery is increased by 1548 for 10 seconds. Most of my character builds will have anywhere between a 400, almost 500 health recovery. So this Troll King plays really well with the builds that I create, because it gives them almost 2k spell or health recovery with this set. So remember, your job is to not just heal your allies, it's also to support your allies. So you use this set as one of your support sets. The next set we use is also something I consider more of a group support set, and that is Night Mother's Gaze. Now, this is your primary physical damage set. This is going to give you weapon critical. It's going to give you weapon damage on the 2-piece and 3-piece. The 4-piece is more weapon critical. The 5-piece. When you deal critical damage, you apply major fracture to the enemy, reducing their physical resistance by 5,280. This plays into that whole idea that this character is part ranger and part battle. Basically, they're like a fighter priest. Or a fighter cleric. They fight on the front lines, but they're also part ranger, and that's where the warden comes into play. But this allows you to use that your knowledge of combat to basically break their armor, so your allies can get through it and deal more physical damage. Now, moving on to the next set, and this set is also one of the strange, unusual sets that nobody ever uses. This is called the Song of Orlamia's Song. Now, this is primarily more of a healer type set, because the 2-piece adds max magicka, 3-piece adds mag recovery, 4-piece adds max magicka, and then the 5-piece. When you use an ultimate ability, you heal you and your allies within 20 meters of you for 34 health per point of ultimate cost. The prime ultimate we use is 90 ultimate. That 90 ultimate, when the math is done, you give out over 3,000 health to your allies when you use it. So whenever you fire that ultimate, you're healing them for 3,000, plus you're getting 3,000. You're also giving them the heal from the ultimate. So it's really powerful in combination with that. Alright, now we're going to go over the traits and enchants on the gear, starting with the small pieces. The smaller pieces are all divines, and this is so we can take advantage of a Mundus Stone. Now, if you look, I did something different here than I normally do with a lot of my builds. I have 2 max magicka enchants on the shoulders and the glove and the belt, and then on the gloves and the boots we have 2 max stamina. This way we can hybridize the character a little bit better. We want more magicka, we want more stamina. We want this character to be well-rounded to some degree. And this is how certain races can pull off playing more hybridized type characters, as we take advantage of the both magicka and stamina pool. On top of that, we use tri-stats in everything we do. So no matter what character I build, they always have tri-stat for the purpose to be hybridized, so that this way they can play tanks, healers, and damage dealers. In this case, it's so they can play a hybrid, because that's what a battle priest is. It's a hybrid fighter cleric, or fighter priest, basically. But that's what a cleric is, I should say. Alright, now we're going to go over, again, so we use tri-stats in the bigger pieces, and this is to maximize our ability to play hybrid, and also to play all 3 roles. Here we have 11 invigorating, or not 11, we have invigorating on the helm and legs. This is to maximize our recovery rates in heavy armor, because we don't get any recovery any other way. And then we use a reinforced chest to maximize our resistance with the 1 piece that's going to be the most resistance applicable to our build, and that is the heavy chest. This will give us the most amount of resistances, so we make it reinforced. Most of the time it will be a heavy piece that you make reinforced. Alright, now moving on to the jewelry. Again, another place where things get wonky for people, because we do use the tri-rune with a weapon damage, and we use a tri-rune with a spell damage. The reason for this set is so we have that greater ability to do damage. Now, the story behind this character is that it also carries with it is what's called a Mace of Disruption. A Mace of Disruption is basically something that, on contact, on hits, of a natural 20, on a 20-sided die, on an attack roll, this thing will disintegrate a portion of what it hits. So the whole set here also plays into that, because you get that ability to basically do critical. Every time you deal critical damage, you reduce the enemy's resistance. This is that kind of theory behind it. So it plays into this really well. But this, with the Lamia's Song, and we have an infused necklace with mag recovery, so we can boost our magic recovery, because our character's primarily a healer type, so we want that high healing factor. With using heavy armors, these don't play like your standard healer with the resto stuff, by the way. They use mace and shield because they're defensive frontline priests. They stand on the front line, they block a lot of attacks, that kind of stuff. So you want that high stamina pool so you can block a lot of attacks. You're going to get your resources back with stamina, mostly from heavy attacks and potions and stuff, and other means. So it's really good this way. But onto the weapon. The mace we use is a Nern or a sharpened mace with a Oblivion damage enchant. The reason for the sharpened, that's right, you guys guessed it. It's to rip through their resistances and make them more effective damaging targets. This gives the idea that you're using this Mace of Disruption. Now, my brother's character did have a Mace of Disruption that he got from this skeleton Lich Lord guy out in this desert, in this place called Kalamashon. It was horrible, guys. You guys, if you were playing it, you would have loved it, but it was also horrible what we had to go through to get all this stuff that his character wound up having, like the armor of the rose and the mace of disruption, all that. It was freaking crazy. But that's to represent that idea of the Mace of Disruption, the Oblivion damage, the sharpen, and the fact that it's a mace. Maces don't get the same effect as like two-handed mauls or dual maces, unfortunately, but we did want to give it as close to that as possible. That's why we use the sharpened mace here. Now, moving on to the back bar, we use a bow. Now, because we're part ranger, we like to use a ranged weapon, the bow, for the purpose of kind of playing off that fact that we are part nature themed, and we use our both our healing and nature magics together in combination, so we can get this greater capability. And this is infused with a weapon spell damage enchant. This is to maximize our physical damage output and our magic damage output, as well as healing. So that's where this comes into play really well. Right, now that you guys have seen that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about skills. Starting with class skills, I do unlock the ultimate and all of the active abilities for each one. You're going to see I take all Magicka-based abilities here. The reason why I take the magical-based abilities is because we are more magically inclined to use those abilities, along with a few stamina-based abilities. So I am going to say there is some stamina-based abilities within this character's design. Alright, so we utilize all the tools that are necessary to make us divine healers, along with damage dealer, along with... so we basically just stand up front and heal, is what we do. We work like anyone else. But we also offer a lot of aid and support to our allies. So make sure you learn the ultimate, active abilities, and passives for your class. Now, when it comes to weapon, our primary weapon will be sword and shield, or one-handed and shield. So we take ultimate, the active abilities, and the passives for it to give us the better capability to use it. Now, when it comes to the bow, because this character does use a bow on the back bar, we do learn the bow active abilities, ultimate, and passives to give us the best capability to play this character as more of like this cleric ranger type. And that's why I chose the warden again. Now, moving on to armor passives. We do use the top 3 of the light armor passives because we want to take advantage of those. Medium armor, top 2, and bottom 1, again, advantages. And then heavy armor, we're going to take all the passives plus the active ability for when we're playing stuff like PvP and stuff. World skills, soul magic. We do use these every once in a while, so I do keep all the actives and ultimate and passive abilities learned. And then the Fighters Guild, I do learn I learn the ultimate, active abilities, and passives for play with this character. Same thing with the Mages Guild, same thing with the Psijic Order, and these are all active and passive abilities, guys. And the same thing with Undaunted. So the Undaunted are mostly synergies. I will use these in different situations when the time calls for it. Most of the time, though, I'm playing in a dungeon as a healer. I don't use a lot of the synergy stuff. Now, moving on to Alliance Wars, Assault skills. I take the Assault skills that best reflect my ability to play my character. Same thing with support. This way I can play a more effective character for my group. Breton is my race of choice. Breton's pretty good for this, even though they get the faster experience gain in light armor, but they also gain the alliance experience. But they get the Gift of the Magus, which increases their max magicka by 2,000. They get the Spell Atonement, which increases their spell resist by 2310, and also goes higher if you are afflicted with Burning, Chilled, or Concussed. And then we have the Magicka Mastery, which reduces the magicka cost of all your abilities by 7%. With the 2 from Armor, that is a 9% reduced cost in magicka. And then we have Alchemy, medicinal use. This is when using a potion, resulting effects last 30% longer. And then Provisioning, Gourmand, and Connoisseur. And so we use all these different abilities to allow us to play our character more effectively in different roles. Since this character is primarily a healer type, our main role is going to be heals with damage. And our damage is going to come mostly from the physical aspect of our character. So, going over our skills, taking a look at the first skill we have on our bar, we have Elemental Weapon. Now this is something that kind of plays into that mix of Ranger, Cleric kind of thing. Clerics have this ability that they can use to enhance their weapons attacks. And that's where the idea for this came from, was I decided I'd use the Cleric Ranger mix to where you call upon this elemental, the divine elements to imbue your weapon. So that's where this comes from. Infuse your weapon with the power, causing your next light attack used within 2 seconds to deal an additional 5,132 damage and apply Burning, Concussed, and Chilled and elemental status effects to the enemy. If the power is not consumed in time, regain a portion of your resources spent. Now the other cool thing is that when you block, you also get a damage shield because of that. And every time you activate it, you'll get this little glowing orb when you're in combat that whenever you attack, see, I'm supposed to get a little glowing orb. There it is. Every time you do damage, and you get 5 of these things will shoot out and do damage against your enemy, dealing X amount of extra magicka damage. Now these guys, remember, aren't damage dealers necessarily. They're group support, so they also use heals and stuff. Their next ability is Soothing Spores. Now this one is a stamina-based heal. And as you can see, you basically seed a large area of mushrooms in front of you, healing you and your allies for X amount of health. The heal heals 15% more on allies that are within 8 meters of you. So the closer you are, the more powerful the heal is. So this is why when you're up front and you're healing your group, you're doing this. And you're doing a lot of heavy attacks, is because your heavy attacks is what's going to give you the main resources for this heal. Now, the other heal you're going to use, or another ability you will use, is called Deep Slash. This is to help aid your allies by reducing the enemy's damage and movement speed. So this does damage up front to a single target hit, and then to each additional target to the side of them, up to a total of 3, they will take X amount of damage as well. So the main target and then 2 more, and those 2 more other targets will take less damage. But each one is applied with a minor movement speed thing that reduces their movement speed, or not minor, but major movement speed reduction by 60% for 4 seconds. And it also afflicts all enemies hit with minor maim, reducing their damage done by 15% for 12 seconds. This allows you to stand on the front lines, apply this to the enemies. If they turn on you, it doesn't matter. You're going to be healing yourself. You're that powerful. The next ability we have is called Budding Seeds, and this one you summon a field of flowers which bloom after 6 seconds, healing everybody in the area for X amount of health. While the field grows, you can activate this ability to cause it to instantly bloom. An ally within the field can activate the Harvest Synergy, healing for X amount of health over 5 seconds. So this is actually a pretty powerful heal when you let it go off. As you can see, I can do like 8k with it, 13k, and that's with a really low healing factor. So I don't need a lot of healing, I just need healing effect. So this is how I do that. The next skill we have is kind of is what I call a floater skill. So the first thing you have to know is this is something I put here for mainly damaging purposes. When you strike an enemy with full force with your shield, dealing X amount of physical damage to them and stunning them for 3 seconds, Also afflicts the enemy with major defile, reducing their healing received and health recovery by 30% for 4 seconds. This is primarily what the purpose of this is for, is to apply that major defile, because you can help kill them really quick. It's basically the defile part of this, the way I see it, is you're not just, when you hit your enemy, you're not just bashing them. You're like kind of shield charging them real quick with like your shoulder and your elbow together. Bam! And when you do that, it sends like a shock into their system, and this breaks up their ability to recuperate right away. It's kind of like when you get the wind knocked out of you. And that's where the major defile comes in, is it reduces that healing effect. So it's kind of an interesting thought behind it, but I do like it. Next up, we have our next major heal. This is the ultimate that we are going to be using primarily, Enchanted Forest. Every time that you get to 90 ultimate, this thing will cover an 8-meter radius with a 6-second duration. Basically, you throw out a heal that heals for X amount right up front, and continues to heal you and your allies in the area for X amount of health every second for 6 seconds. You also generate 20 ultimate if the initial heal is used on a friendly target under 50% health. So we can get this thing off quite a bit. Every time you cast it, as you saw, Lamia's song went off there too. We got like 3,000 and something plus 7,000. That's a huge heal that you initially get to use right off the bat when you use the Lamia's song. And then also we have other ultimates which we do use. So, which reminds me, moving on to the back bar now, starting with the first ability, we do have the Venom Arrow. Now again, for this ability, the floater one that I like to float in, by the way, is the Psijic Order Min Spirit. I like to use this there instead sometimes, because I can use this to activate a heal, and every time I do a light attack or a heavy attack, it'll heal enemies. Light attacks are single burst heals, heavy attacks are channeled, and while I channel, I also get the Deliberation, which reduces my incoming damage by 30% by giving me major protection. I also get the Spell Orbs and everything else with it. It's really nice. I just love using these different forms of the Psijic Order with this. So now moving on to the back bar, we have the Venom Arrow. Like I said, this one does damage up front, it does damage over time, and it also, any enemy hit with this that is casting an ability is interrupted, sent off balance, and stunned for 3 seconds. So it's a really nice ability. The next ability we use is called Endless Hail. This does X amount of damage every 0.5 seconds for 10 seconds. This allows us to keep that Crusher, not that Crusher, but the Night Mother's Gaze 5-piece bonus affected, the Major Fracture. This will allow us to keep that Major Fracture applied really well to multiple targets. So that's the other reason why we use this. The next ability we have is a heal and a buff. So this we use to boost our max health, or not our max health. This allows us, every time we deal a light attack, we heal, and every time we do a heavy attack, we heal you or a nearby ally for X amount for 20 seconds. Now you can gain major savagery, or you gain major savagery, increasing your weapon critical by X amount for 20 seconds. So it's just like using a weapon power pot and a spell. So yeah, you guys will see what I do here in a second. The next ability we have is called Bullnetch, and now I remember what I did here. So this one, you call on a Bullnetch to your aid or to your side, which restores X amount of stamina to you over 27 seconds and grants major savagery and major brutality, increasing weapon and spell damage by 20%. So I don't use I don't use the weapon power pots. I actually use the Magicka power pots, and I didn't get a chance to test this out earlier today because I had to take care of some stuff. So, but yeah, you're going to use the spell power pots, and this is to give you that higher spell critical, because you already get the high weapon critical and weapon damage because of these two things. And then you get that little bit of resources back in stamina. So you get, it's basically like using a potion, but not. It's kind of weird. And then our last ability here is called Expansive Frost Cloak. Now, with this one, You wrap a thick cloak of ice around you and your allies, and the ice grants major resolve and major ward, increasing your physical and spell resist by 5,280 for 24 seconds. This thing has a 28-meter range. So this is a massive radius around you that you can apply this resistance buff that aids your group and helps them stay alive in combat. Remember, this character uses everything under the sun to aid and support their allies. The next ability we have is called Sturdy Warhorn. Now, a lot of people will ask, why not Aggressive Warhorn? The reason I use Sturdy here, guys, is because of this one fact. This thing lasts longer than Aggressive Warhorn. Aggressive Warhorn's 32 seconds. This is 39. I think it's 30 or 32, one of the two. But this lasts 39 seconds. And this increases our max magicka and our max stamina by 10% for 39 seconds. And you and your allies gain minor ward and minor resolve, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 1320 for 39 seconds. So if I'm in a group, I will use this sometimes, and that 290 cost of this is over 7,000 in health, or 250 ultimate. This is over this is going to return over 7,000 health to you and your allies. Alright, now that you guys have seen the character build and the way it's designed, I'm going to take this into a dungeon. And I'm going to play around in there, playing until I get to the first boss. But I'm going to do something different. I'm not changing anything about the character, because I don't need to change anything. They are that capable of soloing the content. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to our favorite dungeon, the Depths of Melitar. And this is a dungeon that came out with the Wrathstone DLC that came out right before Elsewhere. This is the newest dungeons added, or one of the newest dungeons added with the game update, or with that DLC. It's just a really cool dungeon. I really like this one, and I've soloed this thing so many times now with so many different characters, including this one, that I go in here and I just play, and it's a lot of fun now. And it's probably one of my second favorite dungeons to do this in, because I've been doing a lot of testing here. So the thing is that you have to understand is that this guy is, like I said, he's part of this order of cleric rangers, basically. That's the idea of it, and they're called the Order of the Rose. And if you notice, I'm spamming an ability here. And did I just use my tripod? No, I didn't. I used my spell power pot. Okay. And you can see how I'm running low on stamina. So what I'll do is, this is when I'll use my tree, and I'll just sit there and heavy attack mostly, and just use my heavy attacks, because I can do this and then heavy attack, or light attack. If I do this, I can light attack. That's it. So you want to do this in light attack. I'm a dork. Alright. Now, we're going to move into the next area. This thing's just that OP, guys. It's that powerful of a character. Because you get so much healing from your light attacks and everything like that, that you can actually play with both heal types. So we use this heal along with this heal. So we use the tree and everything to basically give us a way to kind of keep a self heal keep coming in, so we can use our other abilities and stuff. So the other thing that reason why we use the elemental weapon is because it has a chance of applying burning, concussed, and all that. And those things can actually help out in a group dynamic really well. So It would probably be better to go with the Magicka-based heal on the front bar instead of the stamina one, honestly. But another great ability you can use, and I'll use it in the next fight, is Vigor. And you guys will see why that one works so well here. Because you can actually heal for quite a bit. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually swap one of the front bar skills. We're going to swap this out for Vigor. Now, Resolving Vigor does cost a little less than Soothing Spores, but it heals for over time. Alright, last heal, and then we're going to let him kill us on the next set of attacks. So, oops, I said I was going to do that the last heal. We're going to make this the last heal. That's it. So now we're just going to let him kill us. So this way we can go back to the beginning, and I can finish out the video and move on with personal life. Alright, so that is the Cleric of the Rose. To my brother, I hope that this shows you that you have a really cool character in this game. When you decide to return and come back, because this is the kind of character I could see you playing. And to everyone else that would play this kind of character, clerics are a lot of fun, guys, and I have a lot more coming. This is just a taste. In fact, the Arcane Battle Mage, this were just tastes of builds that I do have to come, along with the Warlock, which is also the Defiled Warlock. Those were all just tastes of certain things that I still am working on in the background that you guys haven't seen all of. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. And that leads me to the next question, or next thing. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.